doing this house. Peaked roof, door, window, window. Peaked roof, door, window, window. Peaked roof, door, window, window. You know what I'm going to say. Obviously avoided the house. Peaked roof, door, window, window. And so on. And so even kids in university will do this if they have not had any subsequent art training. So much to their surprise, I grab a nice bright orange or red. Here comes the big house. There you go. House. And let's finish it up. Shadow on the house. Little peaked roof, maybe. There you go. House. Now, you're often surprised, but where's the doors? Where's the windows? And who said the house was the most important thing on the block? But it's not. It just sits out there in the landscape. I've made the choice to make it kind of the last thing. I throw a little shadow under it. And there you go. Little house in the distance. Creates a bit of scale. I talk about how the idea that here the clouds are really kind of small. Nothing seems to have much importance. Or in the case of when the clouds are like this, they seem to be very stylized. Here we seem to have clouds sort of as a background, and sort of a lack of decision as to what to do here. Here we've created our scene where our house is not nearly as important as the other things, but the scale of the house allows these things to appear much grander. You've got to remember this sheet of paper is half the size of this. Last requirement was a tree. Once again, trees come in several shapes in children's drawings. You've got your basic cotton candy on top of a brown stick, right there. I'm not sure what this is, but it's the same thing. It's a straight up and down tree trunk. Puffball. This one's a little more sort of developed. You've got your grass pattern here. Trees. If they come in Christmas trees, they are like this. That's your Christmas tree. There's your regular tree. What we want to develop is a tree that's more like this, and I can draw this for you like this. Starting with the trunk up. And it just so happens I like the tree more, so I want the tree more in the foreground. Up, up. And we start thinking about the branches. Once again, any visual reference would help, but we start looking at that. There's a tree there. People like to put foliage on trees, so why wouldn't we be any different? I just want to take the time quickly and shadow up the trunk just a little bit here. Shadow up some of the branches, shadow, 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 and create that shadow, that all-important shadow on the ground. And if I want to do any foliage on it, I take the green. I might have done this before. Oh, take another green, and I can add a little green here. Once again, the idea is to get the idea that one color doesn't solve all of our problems. So if I do use a green, I can grab other greens and just throw some shadow. Notice the way the pencil's moving. It's little strokes. They're leaves after all. I'm not drawing the leaves. I'm just creating a texture that suggests there is this leafy tree in the landscape. And what else did I ask them to do? I can't think of anything else. And I'm just going to finish this up this way. A little more shadow with that black, which kind of ties everything in and creates kind of a moody landscape. Now, this was done with grade 6, 7s, and 8s. The work was relatively indistinguishable between each grade. As expected, the abilities of those grades are very similar when it comes to learning something new. It's a very simple landscape. If I had more time, I might take the time and just shadow this just a little bit more in here as well, creating a bit of a different feeling. But for the most part, this is good enough for a demonstration. And I just want to actually show you some actual kids' work rather than just what it is. So here's the actual demonstration. I could get a little more sophisticated, throw in a little more rich color here. Actually, maybe I'll do that just before we stop this portion. Right here, just a little yellow. And the reason why I do that is because I want to illustrate that the sun doesn't have to be visible, but its effects certainly can be. So we can throw in some nice yellow here just to create that sense of light. Done. Now, this is a quick demonstration. I usually do, it takes me a little less time than actually what we spent here, but it's more important that you see some of the kids. So here's mine, quick and dirty, but I just wanted to show you. Now, this is the same class, so we saw some of these drawings ahead of time. And we can just lay them sort of so you can catch a glimpse of what we did see. Now I want to show you what the class did. And in no particular order, you can see we're starting to get a little more sophisticated on the tree. We're experimenting with a smaller house. They're basically copying me. I have modeled a bit of what they're doing here, but they're able to reproduce it after about, I'd say, 10 minutes instruction, doing one of these landscapes first, and then during the remainder 40 minutes spending on this. So this is about 40 minutes of work from kids. And this is grade, I believe, grade 7. So we kind of get an idea that some of the color is being experimented with. They're starting to blend a little bit more. They're experimenting with gradation. Not everybody gets it. Some do, some don't. But look at the sophistication on the tree and that scale of the house. We have shadows under both. So there's a tremendous amount of drawing learning being done. Here's a nice one too, where we're starting to get a sort of more subtlety in the cloud. We're getting a little less of that bended horizon. We're not seeing that sun anymore, and our trees are sort of growing. Here's one. I mean, look how close that is, really. Very nice. And finally, this one here too, which was looking exceptional. So it's just a really brief exercise that, when done properly, we can kind of get a lot of lessons in. One is about scale, one is about light and shadow, one is about a little bit of different textures, and certainly shading and blending is the big lessons here. All right? Are we good?
Awesome.
Good.